It is. It is nice to see people.
Yeah. Because I know when I'm at home and I'm doing teaching, I sometimes forget what I'm saying because there's nobody there, you know.
Yeah, sometimes it's like you're in a void, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So if I do wander off, you know, somebody give me a prompt to bring me back. Okay.
I'm
Thanks,
going to
Louise.
mute myself now.
Okay. Um, I'm not sure if this is going to work. I'm going to try and present it in Teams.
So just while you're getting yourself sorted, if people have got questions, you can use the chat. My colleague Sophie is also in the chat. You can help with any technical difficulties. But we've also got, if you see at the top in your top ribbon, in your top toolbar, there's a Q&A section which we've activated. So if you'd like to put some questions in there, I'll try and monitor both of them. If there's any questions in the chat that you really like, if you give it a thumbs up, I'll try and go in a bit of a ranking order. Sometimes that works better. I will try and do both, but the Q&A is my preferred way of getting the questions and answered out. Okay, over to you, Alison.
Okay, thanks. I'm presuming everyone can see my slides now. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So yeah, this talk is on what we can learn individually and collectively from the searches we do for systematic reviews. So just to introduce myself, my name's Alison and I'm a senior research fellow at the University of Exeter. And I'm part of this team here, and we're called the Evidence Synthesis Team. And we're funded by the NIHR, and we're an ARC, one of 15 within England. And myself, my colleague Morwenna are both information specialists in this team. And so we spend a lot of time searching, and we're what's called kind of embedded. We don't work in a library or an information centre or anything. We work within the research team, and we're classed as researchers as well, which is rather nice. And actually, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing without the support of all of the team that we work with. They're so lovely and kind and supportive. And if you've got any ideas for research, they want to encourage you and things. So yeah, this wouldn't be possible without all those lovely people. And that's us out for lunch, I think, just after COVID. And the sun is always shining here in the southwest if anyone wants to visit. So these are some of the projects I've been involved with. So I've probably maybe 60 or so systematic reviews, which I've been a co-author on. So this is my first one back in 2013, because I've been doing this job for about 14 years now. So this was the first one that was published, and you can see it's on a kind of an effectiveness review, systematic review, meta-analysis. So it's very kind of effectiveness based. And then I think after we did that, myself and my colleague, we did some research into the platforms for databases. Because we found when we were searching, you know, like Ovid, it was quite good. But then when you go into like ProQuest and EBSCO, things start not going so good. You know, just yesterday I was trying to download references from ProQuest into EndNote, had to do it via Zotero, you know. So in those 10 years, I don't think that much has changed or improved, I should say, for the way in which we're able, the tools that we've got to be able to search. This is another one. So we kind of moved into more mixed methods reviews. So this is a qual and quant systematic review, which was quite a nice one. And then I did a couple of Cochrane reviews. You know, haven't done any since, but we did a few back then. And then this is another piece of research which myself and Morwenna did, developing a search filter. So again, this wouldn't be possible without the support of the rest of the evidence synthesis team to allow us the time to be able to do this and encouragement. And then I kind of veered into some environmental stuff. because prior to this job, I did work for the Environment Agency for about 10 years. So I do have an interest in the kind of environmental kind of evidence within the environment. And there wasn't a lot, information specialists or librarians tend not to get involved in them. So that was nice to be able to be part of that. And I think this is just the last one that we published, and that was the effects of animals on health and well-being of residents in care homes. And again, that's a systematic review of qual and quant. But I have done realist reviews, rapid reviews, scoping reviews, the whole gamut. The only one I haven't done is a living review, but we do have one that's kind of bubbling away in the background, so hopefully we get to do that one as well. So for those of you that, you know this already, so I'm speaking to the converted here. So systematic review searching, it needs to be comprehensive, transparent, and reproducible. So those are the three kind of bits of any systematic review, and that includes the searching. And we have lots of guidelines, our guidance from Cochrane, Campbell, Collaboration for Environmental Evidence. There's lots of guidelines out there. I have Prisma S, which is brilliant, so there are reporting standards or checklists for reporting your search. And there's also some search archives. So there's stuff in CABI where you can upload your searches and you can share them with everyone. And I think there's now a European one as well, which I haven't actually used yet. So there's lots of stuff out there. But what I think is missing is kind of the evaluation of what we're doing. So in a way, just because the search strategy has been published doesn't mean to say it found everything or that it was any good, or it was, so it would be nice if there was some kind of evaluation attached to some of these that we can all learn from. So again, this is, hopefully just talking to the converted. This is a sample search. I don't think it's even, I think we made this up for some teaching. So you can see there's free text terms, there's controlled vocab terms, searching in field code in certain fields, and sort of proximity searching in there. I'm sure all of that's quite familiar to a lot of people, but just in case it wasn't. So I'm interested in you guys now. So when you've done a systematic review and it's been completed, what is it that you'd want to find out from your searches? What would be interesting for you to know about the searches at the end of the systematic review process? And do you do any evaluation yourself? And that's just a yes, no answer. So I've got a Mentimeter, excuse me, code there. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this is going to work because it's been a while since I've had to do anything online like this. So if it doesn't, let me know and we can use the Q&A perhaps for it. So over to you guys, a couple of minutes to put some words in there, and thank you. Thank you, everyone. That's looking really good. So I'm going to share my screen with the results in it. So thanks everyone. You can see there's a lot in there about being comprehensive, usefulness, how they are reported. Did it capture everything? So that's being comprehensive. Levels of sensitivity, how successful, relevancy, what worked best. Are the numbers manageable? Yeah. So there's an awful lot. There's an awful lot that we want to know, and I'm not sure we always get that at the end. Even you know, for those of us who work within an embedded team and see the whole process through from the beginning to the end. Yeah. So did you miss anything? Database usefulness. Which database is best? Relevant articles. So that's great. Thank you so much for that. And the next one is around whether the question isn't there. So it's whether you evaluate your search. Yes, no, sometimes. So it looks like the majority of people don't. People do some people do sometimes, and a few people do evaluate them. So if you want to let yourself be known, not at this stage, I'd be really interested to hear from you, because I'd see, you know, whether we can find a better way of doing this. And I might ask you for some of your input later on. So that's brilliant. Thanks for doing that. I'll go back to my presentation now, Lee. Okay. So thanks for that. So when we've been doing reviews, it got me thinking, you know, when I first started, just like, you know, those answers in the word cloud, I started thinking, okay, so where were the included papers? Where did they come from? Were they in all the databases, some of the databases? Were any of the databases giving me unique records? Because you know what it's like, and there's like so many duplicates, you know, you don't have time to look and see where they come from. And did any of the databases that I was searching find no papers at all? Because I don't know, as time went on, when you got involved, people would say, oh no, I want you to search this database and this database. And in your head, you think that's probably not going to give me anything. But you go, okay, well, I'll search it anyway. But it all adds time to the search process. And then I was interested in the supplementary search method. So as part of the systematic review searching, you know, you do your database searching, but there's also supplementary search methods that we use as well, whether it's citation searching, website searching. And I was interested to find out, well, are they adding anything, and the amount of time that it takes to do them? Does it add anything to it? And there's also one which I haven't put on there about grey literature. So do we do a lot of trying to find the grey lit, and then actually how much of it ends up in the actual review? So, you know, how much time do you spend doing it for the returns? So I think those things are quite interesting. So then, so after thinking about this, I thought, oh, I know, I'll create a little spreadsheet, surprise, surprise. So this is a spreadsheet that I put all the results in. So you have your included reference. So this is at the very end of the process. You have your included references down the left-hand side. The databases were searched and the databases, and then any supplementary searching that was done. And then you'd get your included references. And I guess what most, like what most people do, when you do your searching, you download everything into whatever reference management tool you're using. We use EndNote. And then you remove the duplicates. So I always keep a copy of the library before the duplicates have been removed. And this is what I then go and search with the included references. I look to see, say, one record can be captured in like 5 databases. And I was interested to know that, because then it would tell me how many of the included references were picked up in each database, but also whether any of the databases provided us with unique references. And then the stuff, this kind of bit at the bottom about the number of databases searches carried out and things, that's all from Prisma that you need to. So this was a lot of information that we already had, and it's just about putting it into one place to try and see if there's any kind of pictures emerging from it, really. And sensitivity and precision is in there as well. Although I have to say I've never really used it very much, but that's, but it's really, really helpful to have it in there. It's just a simple calculation. Yeah, so this is what it might look like when it's completed. So you complete it and just put a little X in, when it's if it's been picked up in a particular database. But then, of course, I had to go one step further and say, okay, so if I rerun the search now, like a year or whatever later, would I then pick up more references? So say some of the stuff that was picked up in citation searching, would I then pick it up in the search? So that would say that my search is still comprehensive if the reference is in the database and it was still being picked up. But then if it's in the database and it's not being picked up, you can see that as well and go, okay, so why is that? What do I need? Do I need to change anything? Or if I was doing this again, how would that change? So that's kind of what all the letters mean. But I know it looks really complicated, and I'm sure someone can do it in a much nicer way that makes it more obvious what's going on. And this is what it looks like at the bottom. So you find the number of included references. So, for example, you can see Embase, Epistamonicus, and Medline found most of the included references in this particular review. Epistamonicus found 11 unique ones, but there was one unique one from some of the other databases as well. So you can see where the unique references are coming from. But then when you go back and search, you can also find out, are they unique to that database or are they unique to the search you carried out on that database? Because you might search things in different ways. Hope that makes some sense. But then so I've put it into kind of text. So this is what you could discover from putting a search summary table together. The databases that found unique references and the databases where no included references were found. And then the database combinations that would pick up all the included references, and then the search methods combinations. So that is that citation searching, organization searching, and things like that. So once you've got all that data there, you can start pulling out or teasing out some more of the detail. And that's it, just in a graph. So you can see the total number of included references from the database and the number of unique references in the data. So these are the number of included articles from the search that you did in the database, and the number of unique articles is the number of unique articles from the search that you did in the database. So you can see Epistamonicus had the most unique references. That's likely because it's a much smaller database, so you can search in a different way. And this particular review, we were only looking for systematic reviews. So in Medline or Embase, you have to put a study filter on, whereas in Epistamonicus, you don't have to do that. So you can be a bit broader or a bit more relaxed in your terms. So it might pick up more, which is, I think that's quite interesting to see. But with this particular map, this was on remote monitoring. Of the 72 included papers, Epistamonicus found 11. They were all in Embase and Medline, but our search didn't retrieve them. But there were also 11 included systematic reviews that were not in Epistamonicus at all. So if you're thinking of doing like a rapid review, and you want to find systematic reviews, so this one was a review of reviews, really. So you want if you thought, oh, I'll just search Epistamonicus, this is saying to me that actually you need to search more than Epistamonicus. You're going to miss some stuff. And maybe that's not a surprise to people, but when you see the numbers, it gives you that evidence to then support what you think. And this is another map which we did, peer support. And I won't show you the table for this one, but when we look at the table and extract some of the interesting information, we can see that searching 3 databases would have picked up all of the 32 included articles for this one. And the maximum number to screen is the sum of the yield. So this is before duplicates have been removed. So the maximum number to screen would have been potentially reduced by a couple of thousand. And supplementary searching was required. And for this one, all the included references were in Epistamonicus, but 20 weren't picked up from our search. And we went back and looked at this, and it was the way in which we were searching Epistamonicus, the way in which we thought it was working, it wasn't quite doing that. So it also helps you understand, what might have gone wrong or how a database might work. If there's not it's different with the kind of established databases, say something like Medline, you might understand how it works, but something like Epistamonicus, it might not be as transparent, or the help is not as good, perhaps, as it is in some of the other databases. So then now that we know that now influences how we actually search Epistamonicus. And this was a review which my colleague Morwenna did. So this is a couple of nice graphs from an intergenerational activities review. And you can see the number of includes found by each database on the left. And you can see CINAHL found the most, followed by PsycInfo. And then the number of unique studies is on the other side. So that's telling me ProQuest dissertations and theses found the most unique studies. Is that right? Yeah. So these are kind of interesting results that hopefully you can take on to your next. So when you search again, but also if this was published with the review, then people could see that and make more evidence or informed decisions on what they're doing. And then this is just a graph of I haven't put all of the search summary tables that I've got into this. So this was like the first 13 that I did. And this is the number of included references. So that's the red block, and the supplementary searching. So whether supplementary searching found any additional included references. So you can see it does in some places, but it seems to be overall, yes, it does, but we don't know. I haven't got that detail on there of what type of supplementary searching that was, but it all adds to what's already been published out there about continuing to do supplementary searching, because it is incredibly valuable. So the search summary table is kind of 2 stages. Hopefully I've kind of explained that. So the first stage is using your included references and your references before you remove the duplicates to see where they've been picked up. And I think there should now be a little app that does that on the internet. I had long conversations a couple of years ago with a chap called Trevor Riley, and he was developing something that would do this. I haven't heard whether it's been finished or not, but if not, then hopefully it will be there soon. So it'll be, I think you just upload your initial risk file, and then you upload your included risk file and it will do all that for you. So that would be really quick, which is brilliant. And then you can start understanding what it's saying. But then the next stage is to go back in and see those references that weren't picked up from, weren't retrieved, say from Medline, for example, or Embase. You go back in and search the database and find out were they in there, and then would your search pick it up if it was run again. So that's the kind of second stage of it. So we complete these for all of our systematic reviews. I'm using systematic reviews in the broadest sense, so all of our evidence synthesis projects. And if I'm able to, they get published as a supplementary file along with the actual paper. That does depend on time, because it is time consuming to do this. Excuse me. So it depends on when the paper is written and put in for publication, whether it gets published, but they have gone in as supplementary files. Yeah. So either over to you. You can raise your hand or you can use the Q&A. Does anyone else do something similar to this that they'd like to share with everyone? I'll just stop sharing and see if anyone's
I'll just give people time to,
yeah.
if they want to put something in the chat.
Okay.
Or I know I've seen that spreadsheet before and I've used it since. I think what I was wondering was, and you have just said that actually it is quite time consuming. I was wondering how much extra work it is.
Yeah. So sometimes the issue is getting all the data together that you need. So for example, if someone has written up the paper, often you don't know what the included articles are, and you then have to go and find them. I mean, it's because we're usually within the project, we can get that information a bit more easily. But just getting all the bits of information together, that's the bit that can take the time. But once you've got, I mean, we use EndNote, and if even if you have like 50 includes, it's that bit is quite quick, I would say. But the next bit, when you go back in and search, that can take a bit more time, I would say. But I would say if you had 30 included references, it'd probably take you about half an hour to do the table, that first bit, if you had all the information there, but sometimes it's finding that, and sometimes it's not till the papers like really far, like nearly at the published stage, that you have all that information. So then it's time pressure then to put it together for it to go in as an appendix.
It's good that you can get it published. I mean, same as you say, it depends on when the paper's being published, but to include it in all of that is a good practice to get into. I think sorry, I just slightly distracted then because the chat's going mad and I'm trying to keep up. Someone has put that they do a very crude hashtag hits per database, hashtag in FT screen and hashtag ink, using deduplicated records, but haven't had time to analyze it properly. I think that's the key, isn't it? It's finding that time to analyze it afterwards. Someone else's getting all the strategies published would be a start.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had the database into our EndNote library, so they could do this, but they haven't. And I think EndNote's not my favorite reference management system. Probably shouldn't say that out loud, but it isn't.
I'll be the opposite. I think I really like it.
I think it's what you're used to, isn't it?
It is, yeah, definitely.
I think it is, yeah. It's not my favorite, but I use something else instead. But there's so many features in there that can be utilized for this kind of thing, isn't there? Is where I was going with that.
Yeah.
What else have we got in here? Someone said they might try something similar. Colleague is considering I think I did see, can it be used for all? Would you say this can be used on different types of reviews? So yeah.
Yeah, we've used them for, I've done, all sorts of reviews, and I use it for all of them. Yeah. And you'll probably get different results depending on the type of review as well.
Yeah, someone's actually said, why not include Google Scholar?
For searching, we do use Google Scholar for searching, but not on every review. It depends what the review is, whether we use Google Scholar or even Google. I often use Publisher Perish to search Google Scholar, which is quite handy. And sometimes, it's one of those weird ones. Sometimes it's in the databases, because I can export the results if it's Publisher Perish, and then sometimes it's a supplementary search. We put it as that. So it does vary, but we definitely use it, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just going to go back slightly because you did hint on this, that actually the results vary depending on what the reviews are.
Yeah.
And someone's asked, have you done any synthesis over time on that?
Yes, but I presented it last year with there's a chap in Stockholm, and I can't remember the name of the institute he works for. It's a really long name. And the two of us worked together and presented what we had. We merged our results together to show some trends that were coming out from the data that we had. But I haven't done it for just mine yet. I've got some stuff, but it feels a bit patchy. But that's what I'd like to do. And I think, what I'd like is because I'm doing my thing, but it'd be really interesting to see what others are doing, and to build something a bit more, something a bit bigger than just the reviews that I'm doing, because they can vary wildly from environmental reviews to an evidence and gap map in kind of public health or something. So yeah, but we tried to do it like by topic, but we didn't quite have enough information as well for that either.
Yeah, and I think I think we had a conversation, didn't we, about sharing more, and I think that's a practice that we need to get into a bit more as a profession, is sharing more and working. I think we're very good at collaborative work, but we could do it differently.
Yeah.
There's a question: do you use lens.org?
We don't use it. I dipped into it just a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was good, but it covers the databases that it includes are things that we'd be searching anyway, because it includes like PubMed, and we'd be searching that via Medline. So, and it does have an advanced search now, which I don't think it did have before, but somebody might correct me on that. It's a brilliant free resource, but because we have access to good curated databases, then I think, and we can search them comprehensively and do complex searches in them. We haven't felt the need to use it yet, but it's definitely something that I think is really worthwhile.
Yeah, we use it here at Lancaster. I think dragging my brain back, you're quite right in that it didn't have the advanced search at the beginning when it first was developed, but it definitely does now. But yeah, we do use it in Lancaster.
Yeah.
Do publishers ever say that they'd rather this analysis was not included in the appendix?
No, not had
No.
that. No.
No.
Not so far.
Someone's totally find it interesting. I'm just trying to catch up. There is some in the Q&A, so just give me a second. With the pro forma, that indicates which references were found in each database. I noticed that some were marked X and others Z.
Yeah,
Could
sorry,
you
I should have
explain?
said that. Yeah, so the X, that's just the notation that I use. So X it was in the database and it was retrieved by the searches that we did originally. Z means it's in the database and our search doesn't retrieve it. N means it's not in the database at all. And Y means it's in the database and our search does pick it up when we rerun it. But that was just my notation. It's really, I don't think it's the best notation to use. So if you can, if someone's got something better, colors would probably work better, I think. But yeah.
But people can They can adapt it, can't they, to what
Exactly.
suits? You know, it's very
Exactly.
adaptable.
Yeah, yeah.
So how do you and your colleagues find using, I can't say this, epistemonicus? I knew I was going to say this wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it's quite well suited to clinicians and other people without the background. Oh, there's a bit more information here. That information specialists have, but more complex searches end up looking like a really hard to read search string. Spaghetti that is difficult to work with and edit. So how do you find it?
Epistemonicus.
I knew I was going to say it wrong.
I think it's brilliant for what it does, but for if you're trying to be comprehensive, you need to search it quite simply. And for the one that we were doing, it was on peer support, and what it was that it didn't like the hyphen. That was the problem with it. And I think Irma Clarings from Cochrane, I don't know if she's written a paper on it, because we presented this a few years ago at eHill, and I think they've been running workshops on how to use Epistemonicus or search it better. But yeah, it's just being aware of these things that you don't know when you first start using it. Yeah.
And sometimes it's just trial and error, isn't it? And I think a lot of this is trial and error sometimes.
Yeah, but if you're getting results, you think, yes, that's okay, but actually, it's good to know that it's good to know what you're missing or what you might. And like with Epistemonicus, because you're searching like several databases, you are probably going to pick it all up and doing supplementary searching. Yeah. So shall I go back to my slides, shall I? Thank you everyone so much. I'm really looking forward to be able to see in the chat properly. And I'm happy to answer some of the questions later if that's helpful.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. So, yeah, it's people say, so what, in a way, why bother? So because it is specific to the project, that's one thing to remember, but it can be really helpful if you're doing any update searches within a review, and I'm going to give you an example of that in a bit. Any further evidence synthesis project. So if you did one for a map and then somebody wanted to do a review, it was a part of the map where there was a lot of evidence but no review, it could be helpful for that. It could be helpful for rapid reviews. So if you're short of time, short of resource, it needs to be done within like 2 months or whatever, 2 weeks, 2 days, then you can say, okay, these are the databases we're going to focus on because that's where most of the evidence has come from. But you can understand the biases that you're introducing by doing that because you've got the bigger picture. And also individually, as an individual, I think it's really useful because a lot of it is the tacit knowledge which you have. But what it does is confirm or not what your tacit knowledge might be. Because I've heard people say, yes, but I know that. But then you might have 10 years experience. And so you do know that. But if you're new to the profession, new to searching, or it's a new topic, then it can be a really helpful thing to if that's been done before someone else has done that, then it could be really helpful to you. And it makes your work more visible, and it makes what you do a bit more evidence-based or evidence-informed, because you can say, no, we're not searching that database because of this. I've done these 3 reviews and it's not picking anything up, so we can not search. Ahmed, for example, is one that I used to search. The first 10 reviews, I think I searched it, and it was giving me nothing, so I rarely search it now. So it's giving me the confidence to say yes and no to some things. And institutionally, that hasn't happened for us, but the database subscriptions that you have. So if someone has done a review and it said, there were 10 unique articles from a database you don't have, and you were updating the review or doing something on a similar topic, you'd probably want to find someone who had access to that database to collaborate with, perhaps. And I think collectively, and if we do these and share them, then I think we all learn. We can all learn from each other, I think, which would be lovely. So I'm just going to give you 2 examples of how I've used them. So the first one is an update search within a review. And I don't know if this is familiar to anyone. We started a review back in 2015. 10 years later, it's still not been published. So in 2015, these were the databases we searched with a little X. So AHMED was one that we searched, Cochrane, Embase, Medline, Sports, Discus, and Web of Science. And we updated the search before it went to publication, meant to be going to publication, 2016. We added in PubMed, because at that time, PubMed used to have on PubMed before it was on Medline, they had a section that you could search. So that's what we did at that point, before it was written up. It wasn't done, it kind of got left. And then in 2018, it got revived again. So, okay, let's go back. So we needed to search again. But by that time, I'd done search summary tables, and I could see that AHMED was giving us nothing and Sports Discus wasn't giving us anything. So we dropped those. Adairwood no longer existed, so we didn't search that again. PubMed, all of it was now Medline, so you didn't have to do that extra bit, so we didn't need to search that. But then Epistemonicus was now available, so we put that one in, because this was a review of reviews. So we managed to reduce the number of databases, and then we did the search in 2018, and 4 years later, it still wasn't published. And I did a search summary table again, and I added all this information in, and we decided that we would only search Medline and Epistemonicus for the searches we did in 2023. Whether that was right or wrong, we don't really know, but it's 10 years since we started this, and we want to get it out as well. So there's a bit of, can't think of the word, to say, right, we've got the evidence to show, we've got an evidence trail that shows us this, and that's why we're doing it, so that was one that we did. And this is another one which we did, which was a remote monitoring of long-term physical health conditions and evidence in gap map. And this was for a policy customer. But you can see we searched in a lot of different places. But we found out, when I did the search summary table, that there was a lot of references that were in, say, Medline and Embase that were picked up elsewhere, but the search that we did didn't pick them up. So we now have a student who's working with us, and we're going to update this map. So I went and looked at the search to see if we could improve the search. So this is just the first 10 lines of the search. So this is very time consuming. I really wish someone could invent a way of doing this more easily. So we basically reran the search, put our included articles in, and then just did 1 and 50, 2 and 50, 3 and 50, to see how many of those included articles are being retrieved. And then we prioritized them according to the number that they retrieved, the included articles. So some were 0, some were 1, and then you can start combining them to see, like, one or 2, does it add anything extra? So I'll show you what we did to our search after doing this. So we removed some of the mesh terms, mainly around, these ones, fitness trackers, telemetry, and remote sensing. But we used an exploded mesh term, telemedicine. In the original, I think we had it focused and we combined it with monitoring, but we were losing quite a lot by doing that. And we added some additional terms, and things like artificial intelligence, since it was first published, there's a lot more published out there on that. So we added that in as well. And then we edited one of the terms from telemonitoring to telemonitor. We didn't drop any of the other free text terms, although most of them were giving us no hits, because it'd be interesting, once we finish this, is to go back through the whole process again and see what's happened. So that's what we did, and that's an update. So that's how I've used them for kind of other evidence synthesis projects. And this is another one on peer support. This is an evaluation rather than using it for another evidence synthesis project or anything. So from 119 lines of peers, this is evaluating your searches. So we had 119 lines of peer support terms to find systematic reviews on peer support. Only 18 identified and included systematic review, and only 2 of those lines identified unique records. We would never recommend doing a 2-line search, but what this did, it was then shows that actually systematic reviews tend to be clearer in their title and more structured in their abstracts to be able to find relevant to find the relevant reviews, unlike perhaps finding RCTs. So the RCT search, we had 55 lines of search, and we needed 26 identified, included RCTs, and 11 found unique RCTs. And this, in a way, this was showing is that, yeah, you might want to search in different ways depending on the study types that you're looking for. And I haven't done this for qualitative because I think that would be really interesting as well. You know, what synonyms are used to find RCTs compared to qualitative papers on the same topic. So it's just interesting that this is what we found. So I was going to ask another question, but I might just finish up and then we can do a kind of general question at the end. There were some links. You've got a YouTube site on how to use search summary tables, and a little interview my colleague did with myself and this chap called Klaus from Stockholm. We had a little conversation about why we use them and got a bit carried away, so it's not very long. The Campbell Information Retrieval Group, I don't think I said I'm a co-convener of that group, so if anyone's interested in belonging, it's very open and inclusive. And eHill is another, I'm one of the UK reps for eHill as well. So that's another link if anyone is interested in finding out more about them. There's some of the references that I've included, and then there's the team. That's the 6 of us to say thank you for listening and thank you for engaging with it. But if anyone's got any questions now, I'd be really interested to hear them. You know, would you use it, or is it something that you would do? It can be time consuming, but I'm happy to answer any questions or share.
Oh, we have a hand up. Do we have a hand up? No, that hand went back down. So I don't. Oh, we have got a hand. Oh no, that went up and down. Not sure what's happening. That was brilliant. Thanks, Alison. And same as I say, I have used it after I'd seen it the first time, and I'll be interested to see if anyone else feels the same. I just wondered, has it changed the way that you've done future searches, or do you still do the same? Do you still use the same strategy? I think that's kind of what I'm asking. Has it informed, you know, future work?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, maybe that's, but it feels like it has. But I'm not sure if it's them or your experience as you do more searching. You know, so that I think one of the ones I showed the remote monitoring. You know, I'm more inclined to like search title and abstract differently and things like that. I'm more inclined to do like maybe 3 searches for a review rather than one big one. You know, rather than going for the A and B and C kind of approach. You know, I kind of I don't know, reformat them in a different way, I think. And I think that does come from doing these search summary tables and seeing where your included references are coming from. And searching databases differently, I feel a bit more confident of that rather than translating your search strategy completely from one place to another. You can say, okay, well, if I search this one slightly differently or broader, but you know, maybe it's the confidence, you know, having done it for a number of years now, but also the evidence of the search summary tables as well. So. Yeah.
Someone's asked, can we share the slides because they're keen to use the table? So is that okay, Alison, to share?
Yeah, that's fine. There's I don't think I put that. There's on our website for I can send you that link as well. There is a spreadsheet that you can download and do what you want with.
Excellent.
You know, you can use it, abuse it. If you if you change it, you know, I'll be interested to see what you do with it. I don't think I mentioned sometimes I put in like the format is in there, but I also put in the type of evidence. So whether it's qualitative, quantitative, so I can track where that's coming from as well. And what I've noticed, you know, and it's backed up by the research that's out there, is that qualitative, you know, we get in lots and lots of different ways, whereas the quant tends to be from the databases. But
yeah, that's a good point.
It's interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Now we have got a hand up. Have we got a hand up by accident or have we got a hand up?
No, this is a hand up. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please.
Alison, sorry, this was me asking about the tables, just to
So
make
yeah,
sure that we have access. I just wanted to say, I don't know if other people are doing it the same way. So I suppose we all, to an extent, are evaluating our searches. And I suppose I would have done it very informally as part of reflective practice, trying to note down what didn't work. And sometimes you find these things much later, unfortunately. And just keeping a record of it that way in terms of informal CPD, if you know what I mean. But
yeah.
I have never done it the way you are doing it right now, and I'm really looking forward to trying it out. I can see how this is going to take a lot of time, but I've learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, the first stage of putting everything in the table doesn't take very, obviously the first time you use anything, it takes time. But yeah, once you've used it a couple of times, it's pretty straightforward, really. And you might find a quicker way of doing it. If anyone does, I'll be interested because the more we
But
can automate these things.
it's the sharing of it, isn't it? And then people
Yeah.
adapting it, and that's the only way we can maybe improve it, or maybe it's as great as it's ever going to be, but we don't know that until we've shared it and tried it ourselves a little bit more. There is a question, and I think it'll be the last question really, and it says, do you use Polyglot to transcribe? I've lost it now, but it says, do you use Polyglot basically?
Yeah, sometimes. In fact, I tried it the other day and it didn't help me at all. I was translating a search to go in from Medline to Web of Science, and yeah, I wanted to use the TS rather than TIAB. So the advanced translation did TIAB, and the simple one had no field code, so it wasn't that much help. So I think it's a fantastic tool, and I think it's really helpful. But you have to know what it's doing.
Yeah,
You
yeah. And I did say that was the last one, but actually I've got one more wrote down which I'd got from further up, and it said, are the reviews affected by the databases that institutions could subscribe to? So what have you got available? Does that affect the actual results of the review?
Well, I haven't done a review with someone from another organization who has access to different databases. So that would be really interesting, I think, particularly in the kind of environmental field and things. I think that would be really interesting. So when I did it with, when Klaus and I combined what we had, we actually had access to this similar type of resources. I think we had access to more than they did. So I think we're lucky in that we're very well served with databases. Yeah, I'm just trying to I think I have asked someone to search sort of aquatic databases, but in the end, it didn't add anything. And I also did a review where we had someone in Argentina rerun the searches and databases in Spanish and Portuguese. But that made no difference to the search results. They found nothing extra than what
That's
we'd already
interesting,
found.
isn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That paper hasn't been published yet, but hopefully, not for me, the review, but when the
Yeah.
review is published, hopefully it'll be in there.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. I think it's a good piece of evidence, actually. Thank you very much, Alison, for your time, and thank you to everyone for coming. As I say, every single time, these wouldn't happen if it wasn't for you guys. It wouldn't happen if Alison didn't give her time up for this hour. So thank you very much, Alison.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
No, it was really interesting. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. See you next time.